Attention gamers, last week I made a video trying to defend a worse opinion than what you would find on a Hasanabi stream. That the problems with League of Legos aren't the fault of Riot Games but rather the player base, as I would rather be associated with Epstein's party planning committee than with the majority of this community, and I showed that with a few examples. First, we had the proxy pushing Singe to rage quit because he didn't get ganks in lane. We had the NID support who decided to build tank and jerk off all game. We had our fair share of backseating Betty's blaming and shaming my picks in Champ Select only to get proven more wrong than Amber Heard in a courtroom, and finally we had the Morgana who I had to gently caress and chat all game just so she wouldn't AFK. And after such a demonstration of douchebaggery, there were two types of comments that made me angrier than a young Ray Charles doing a word search, and the first were people telling me that one of the games was my fault because I picked Seraphine bot. My initial reaction to these people is to typically not say anything because I figure natural selection will wean anyone with such a moronic mindset that doesn't know jack shit about shit out, but then I figured I would instead do them a public service by making them realize how much stupider they make the world around them every time they talk in a video. To do this, I was planning on filming a ranked climb with Lux and other mages as bot laners, which is when I ran into the problem that was also popular in the comments. That these problems are Riot's fault because they let smurfing exist without punishment, and right when I was about to say I haven't seen a smurf in a while, I ran into this. So yeah, I was playing Twinkle Tits as the carry with the floating octopus as my support. Absolute morons in the comments will say I'm trolling for not playing someone like Zeri, while anyone who has actually played solo queue will know that her laning phase is going to be harder than handcuffing a rattlesnake, and things were off to what I thought was going to be an abusive relationship down here. But then 2.5 minutes into the game, we had a visitor, one that is so uncommon in my piss pit elo that its inhabitants like myself don't even think to deploy cameras in the shrubs this early. Of course, what follows is graphic, and my own gameplay indeed represents that of a frustrated boy who has been hard stuck in this elo for years. I was verbally impressed by such an early gank, as typical junglers who are actually at this rank spend their time this early in the game bitching about something that doesn't matter in chat.
Thanks for AFKing top! Appreciate it!
Rav's jungler has muted themselves.
Anyways, this moth immediately made its way upriver looking for a dead clown corpse to teabag, and sure enough, Chuckles the annoying shitbag was there. Butterfree used dash and it was super effective in earning the solo bolo. Instead of backing this suspect of a smurf, speed ran some chores around the rift until a counter jungling clown came in with a seemingly large advantage. He struck first, had the health advantage as well as a bunch of stealth bombers deployed in the field, and at this point seeing this madman of a moth take this fight told me that he is either skilled with millions of mastery point knowing exactly his own limits, or just a total dumbass who stayed in a bad fight and got lucky. I figured seeing that Rift Alexa has been announcing the genocide this dude was hosting up north, I would be able to relax, take my bra off and just whip some Edison bombs at bitches, but Butterfree was back already, and my aim served as a freshly vacuumed welcome sign to burn Raph's summoner Spellsville. I then saw Edward Scissorhands in the area and thought I would spectate the slaughter, but he wasn't alone. The murderous manta ray knew just when Zed would port back to Shadows, casting its thousands of dashes to stay on top of him until he died. I of course was then stuck there with my limp dick in my hand, just knowing that some broken condom baby will be typing that it's my fault for playing Lux, as if a level 4 Jinx would have double killed here, but the point is this Bel'Veth had more kills than minutes at this point, then became the counter jungling pressure, as it's not enough to diff the shit out of the literal clown on my team in the ganking department. He also had to bleed him drier than a cactus dick, and for a second I thought Zed was going to be the hero and save the day, you know, put some use behind that cringe costume he wears only for his legacy to be ended by a red buff. I then had to deal with the repercussions of being shittier than a septic tank myself, but also being behind due to this Bel'Veth's contributions, but even with a Q sent into Timbuktu we proved that double mage is just the knees of the bees down here. And you can see typical players who are actually stuck in this elo have to chirp after a play like that.
All that help for that!
As I then privately instructed the Calamari to turn on his kill switch moving forward. But bot lane wasn't the only lane getting wrecked like Lana Rhodes's internal organs on a workday. No, you see, the top of the map was just as one-sided. The knight in dying armor landed a total of 0 abilities, and then obviously this liberal dunce and his good-for-nothing attitude in team chat wasn't going to stand a change against the infamous wingsuit slaughterer who executed and silently got out, unlike the actual junglers in this elo.
Rav's jungler has unmuted.
Nice, you AFK tower start of game, and you don't even ult. Very nice, bro. You pro.
I then did something extremely stupid. You see, I saw the absolute Grand Canyon of a jungle presence going down and I figured, oh shit, there's no way our own jungler is gonna do his job and contest a dragon. I should at least get a camera installed so I can show him the footage of what he is supposed to be doing, but I forgot that surveillance technician is one of the deadliest professions as a solo entrepreneur, and I learned the hard way that someone else can install the damn cameras next time because it's not worth it. Faker then of course took the objective and roamed mid, knowing precisely where our mid laner would be most vulnerable to a surprise visit, as the only gap he couldn't close in this game was the skill gap between him and my team's jungler. I then typed in trade chat wanna buy summon bot lane, and a warlock in tower transmog hooked me up, only for Morg to greet me like a petty housewife. My support didn't take kindly to her being a douche, and my ult didn't take kindly to being aimed by a drunk but enter meta following ADC who is supposedly the right type of champ to play in this role at my rank. Side note, my jungler did prove that as long as the player is a support with no cooldowns, barely any mana, no summoners, and like 9 health while also being cornered by 3 of us, he is fully capable of earning a kill himself. I should have grabbed my Uber back to base to spend my last paycheck, but I saw what I thought was a shutdown fleeing a crime scene, and I figured a huge numbers advantage would be just what we needed, but for every ally in the area, Riot gave him twice as many dashes. But I thought at least he is out of dashes and this should be a free cleanup for the clown. At this point he had 14 of his team's 16 kills and he wanted to make sure no one on my team felt left out, so he went back top to beg Mordekaiser to bring him to the private Diddy dimension, but he refused, hoping if he got fucked in public his lawyers would be able to make a better case next time. That said, I did hire the clown to perform at a funeral and he was like, sure you said at the morgue? And I said no, the funeral for the morgue, and the performance was great but the gold greed in me would soon be punished. Bam, over the wall like a parkouring death penalty distributor. I was prison shanked to death by the butterfly faster than a wild Pokemon can make a dumb tweet, as he then enjoyed a serving of deep dish calamari for dessert. Just to take an inventory of where we are at, it's now 15 minutes into the game. This dude is 18 kills with a 4-level advantage over my sad excuse for a jungler, which means you could say he is living rent-free in this guy's top side, and the only thing that could stop him would be a developer at Riot preventing players like this from treating lower ranks like their personal pissing bowl when they need a break from their main elo. Anyways, getting shit on or not, I was still enjoying the amenities that come from being a mage down here. That said, smurfing Sammy over here was going to show that Velvet's directional dash cooldown is looser than my asshole after a colonoscopy when it comes to how that was coded, because this bitch is just bopping, slopping and hopping in all directions at all times it feels like, and I know Zed wasn't too happy about it either. I do know that OP or not OP, the one thing that some players have voiced a distaste for is the mobility creep that has been put into the game, but I don't think it's that bad. For example, let's count the number of dashes or flashes she does here. My chat is appropriately full of people wanting to call it quits, but I needed to stay for research purposes, even if it meant I would be puckering my asshole and trying to pull off Hail Marys at the end. Besides, outside of the smurfing elephant in the room, fights were extremely winnable and I was still enjoying my time as long as it wasn't being shared with this Belvath, and this kill brought me to level 11. Precisely 5 levels below this Jagoff in the jungle, who was visibly pissed that Mordekaiser took some vein to the Diddy party instead, so he vowed that invite or not he would get his share of fucking that man in the metal costume at some point. 2 quick questions for those of you in the stands right now. Does it seem normal that 2 players of the same rank would be divided by 6 levels by the 20-minute mark? And also, does it seem normal for a jungler to be able to do this without some friends around this early? Anyways, all my own boys were dead except for Zed, who no one was questioning if he belonged in this elo, as he just AFK PvE'd up top until it ended, which left me as our team's last hope in defending against this max level murder moth. And thus this concludes my experience with what I am estimating to be a smurf, based off of the evidence that can be summarized by someone having 30 kills in a 21-minute game. But you can't blame Riot for not punishing this. It could have just been a single lucky game with an insane snowball. It would take some kind of repetitive pattern for them to detect this. Rav out.